everybody, it's 13th Wolfman. You know what today is? Today is day 22 in the 31 days of Halloween. Day 22. Man, now we're into the single digits as far as what's left of the month. Ugh. So, this month, there's been very few Stephen King movies in my 31 days of Halloween. Last year, my buddy Bones, if you don't know him, he's got a cool channel. He did an entire month, 31 days of Stephen King, and that was really cool. I mean, he found 31 movies to do, and I'm not saying I don't have 31 movies. I just didn't, I kind of tried to find a little bit other stuff, but so Cujo was one movie that we did this month for the 31 days. That's Stephen King, and today we're doing another one, and that's Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher came out in 2003. It stars Thomas Jane, Jason Lee, Timothy Olyphant, Morgan Freeman, Tom Sizemore, Damian Lewis, and Donnie Wahlberg. Yeah, Donnie Wahlberg, the other Wahlberg brother. So a very simple synopsis of this movie is that we have Beaver, Henry, Jonesy, and Pete, who have been friends since they were kids growing up in the town of Derry. When they were kids, they found another kid named Douglas Cavell being picked on by the local school football player, bully / douchebag. They stick up for him, and Douglas Cavell gives them abilities. Not things like they can fly or anything like that, but they can talk to one another without moving their lips, and they could hone in on other people's thoughts, little things like that. There's a few other things, but you really need to watch the movie. So we fast forward to where they're adults, and one day they're thinking about going out and seeing Douglas. His nickname is Duddits. They refer to him as Duddits. They never explain the Duddits thing, but I think it's just because Douglas has a speech impediment. So he can't say certain letters, He calls Henry Henny. He calls, Mr. Gray, Ista Gay, Things like that. But that's neither here nor there. So they think about going out and seeing him, and then something tragic happens. And 6 months later, they're all together, and this really weird adventure starts. This movie, I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen Dreamcatcher, because it really is a cool movie. But the way that they made this movie, it feels like you're watching two movies at once, because you have the four friends dealing with their side of the story, and then you have Morgan Freeman, Tom Sizemore, who are military guys who are dealing with a whole different thing altogether. It's the same, but it's different. It's a really weird way that they did this. I remember thinking, like, man, that feels like I'm watching two different movies altogether. Eventually they merge, they find a path and they converge and they come together. But it's a really different kind of movie. It's based on a book by Stephen King. This was like around the time that this came out that I was like, okay, I pretty much feathered off and stopped reading everything that Stephen King did. I read some of his stuff, but I think the last thing I read was From a Buick 8, and since then, he's put out like a ton of books. I mean, he put out a ton of books when I was reading them at the time, but still, it's a lot later. But yeah, Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher is way different. It's sci-fi, it's horror, it's a little bit of everything. It's got a little mystery involved. It's a fun time. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's another one of those movies you just can't talk too much about it. And, yep, it's put out by Warner Brothers because we got the damn snapper case. That's how old this copy of this movie is. They came in a snapper case. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes long. Yeah. This movie does have an alternate ending. But I didn't tell you about the ending, so I can't tell you about the alternate ending. It's just that simple. As always, I'm just going to wrap it up here. I'm going to just say, as always, like, subscribe, share, and comment. I want to know what you have to say. When you do subscribe, hit the bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I put something new up. Wait for the list at the end to see who else is doing this. And as always, I'm the 13th Wolfman, and yep, I'm on the prowl.